today being Tuesday, the 30th of November, we're going to multiply imaginary numbers. So for number 15, 4 times 7 are the real parts, and then you have I times I for the imaginary parts. 4 times 7 will give you 28. Remember though, I times I, it's up here in our notes, just above it. I'm going to write it right here. I squared is equal to -1. So this becomes -1. And then your final answer is -28. Again, you started with imaginary numbers and you ended up with a real number. Number 16, same thing. We're going to multiply the real parts. So -4 times 2 times -9. Got 3 of them. And then I have I times I times I. So I have 2 negatives. They'll cancel, give me positive. That's 8 times 9. So that'll be 72. Remember from just above here, we know that I cubed is equal to -I with our pattern just from above. And so when you multiply those, you get -72I. So far, so good? Shake your head if you're good. Okay, thank you. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to keep going. Now you can also raise them with powers, just like we would do before. Anything to the third power here, we're going to multiply it times itself 3 times. So let's just write it out. That's 2I times 2I times 2I. And you're also going to multiply times a 5, I. You may even be able to skip that next step. 2 times 2 times 2 is what? Try again. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 5 is 40. And then we have I to the 4th. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So what is I to the 4th from up here? It's just 1. So this becomes 40. Again, I think it's kind of neat how you can start with imaginary numbers and end up with a real number. But we will keep plowing ahead. I have I times the root of 3 squared. So I'm going to rewrite that twice. I also have -8I squared. So -8I, -8I. Of course, I would ask you at this point, what would you do next? You would multiply. So what is root 3 times root 3? It's a regular 3, right? Or you could do root 9, which is also a regular 3. Okay? And then -8 times -8 is 64. And I have how many i's? 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is pretty easy. I to the 4th we know is 1, and 3 times 64 is 192. That's it. Again, not too bad, right? Okay, this one doesn't have any i's in it yet. You have to take the i's out, right? So, take i's out first. That's the first thing you're going to do. Which means I'm going to rewrite these as -1 square root times 18 square root times -1 square root times 10. Now you can simplify because we have positive radicals. So those I'm going to simplify. You can do two things here. You can either break them apart individually, or you could multiply them together and see if you can find a big square root, that's what I'm going to do. But this here and this here this is an I and this is an I. So what happens when you multiply this times this? You get a -1. Right. So -1 from here, because it's I times I. And then this is 180. Now, if you're stumped on 180, you just ask yourself all the different ways that numbers can multiply to give you 180. So there's 2 times 90, 3 times 60, 4 times 45, 5 times 36, 6 times 30, no 7, no 8. Well, 8 might work, I don't know. 8, 9. 9 times 20, and 10 times 18. I mean, those are all the ones that I can think of. So of those lists that I just gave you, which one has the biggest square number? Anybody hear it? Which one has the biggest square number? Okay, I will give you 36 times 5. That's just the easiest way to do it. Figure out the biggest number that goes in there. What is the root of 36? 6. You're multiplying times a -1. So this is -6 times the root of 5. Ta-da! So it's very similar to what we've already done, just like this, right? And finally, number 20, at least for these notes, before we add and subtract. So, again, take your i's out first. So this is going to be -1 times 24 for this one. It's going to be -1 times 3 for this one. And then for this one, it'll be -1 times 2. So each one of these are an I. So it's I times I times I. That's going to be I to the third. Then just like I did here, I'm going to multiply them together to see if I can get a bigger number that will come out of it. So this is 24 times 3, which is 72. 72 times 2 is 144. Oh, look at that. I like that. That's very good. What is the root of 144? 12. Right? 12 times 12 is 144. What is I cubed? -I. So you just look up at your little chart, your pattern. You'll follow that pattern. And then this is 12. Right? So your final answer is -12i. Any questions? Not bad, right? Okay. If I asked you to, like,